So we have gone live, I think, and that I hope that this is feeding out to our various Facebook groups and all in a minute. But this is going to be episode 4 of season 1 with our chosen group. Now, hopefully, I just want to test a couple things after we get started here. Janice, are you seeing anything? Oh, so we're there. So that's good enough for now. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and have a little intro. And then following that intro, we will bring in our guests. So we have guests with me, and then also we have people who can participate on Butter, and we're going to try to figure out how all that works. So just, here I go again. Yeah, but let's see what happens. So we'll be right back. Maybe. Okay, so here's some of my guests with me tonight as we're working our way around the circle clockwise. Lorene, maybe you can say a couple words.
Hello.
There you go. That's only one word. Who are you kidding? So, and then
I'm glad it's easy.
yeah. So then we have Val there at the bottom right-hand corner. Val.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome
Hey,
to the
I'm gonna
Chosen.
welcome to the chosen. To the chosen. Here's what I'm going to try to do. Now, this is like...
Joe Garman is watching.
Oh, is he? Cool. That's good. So, and then going around the circle, we have... introduce yourself, please.
Oh, I am Janice.
Well, no. I was talking about the lady in the bottom left-hand corner there.
I'm Nikki, and I feel like we're on Hollywood Squares.
You are. Or the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Look up, look sideways.
Yeah. So that's cool. So I'm going to try a few things as we go along here, and hopefully I haven't lost too many people on our Butter app. I see that Jan Gallivan is there, and so Jan, if you can just stick with us through that. But we also have some questions that we're going to be going through with respect to the chosen here, and that so this is season 1, episode 4. Now, what I need to do in order to make this work meaningfully for the people over there in Butterland is I need to open up a window for them. So let's just try that real quick and see if that works. And we got the slides there, and it looks like it's working. I'm going to go ahead and close that one window over there. Okay, cool. All right, so we've been going through The Chosen on Wednesday nights. We've been trying to get the tech to work, and it's just many layers of complication on this. And and I'm noted for if anything can be done simply, I like to make it complicated.
You do.
But and no comments from the peanut gallery until I call on you. So we have some slides here, and we have some questions over there in Butterland. Jan, if you want to raise your hand, if you notice on the left-hand side of your screen, there is a thing that says Q, and you can just click on that and raise your hand. And I think we lost her, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so enough of that explanation. We are on Facebook, so you can just watch us there, and hopefully that will be meaningful for those who watch. So let's go through our study tonight, and this is season 1, episode 4 is called "The Rock on Which It Is Built." And so as we get started here, what was your overall impression of this episode? And what was your favorite moment? And so, hey, why not some of my guests go ahead? Or go ahead, Lorraine.
Okay, what I really loved is in the fish scene when the fish is getting overflowed with when the boat's getting overflowed with fish, and Jesus is just delighted. He's like laughing and watching, and I've noticed because I've seen some of the other ones. He's just delighted in when the miracles happen and
Yeah,
the people see it. It's
yeah,
just so
Yes.
cool.
yeah. I think the actor who portrays Jesus does a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Val, you were going to say something?
Exactly what she said. It's just Jesus didn't say anything. He's just watching the whole miracle happen, and he it just sits there and looks at Simon's face, and he's just overseeing the whole thing just happen. And
Yeah.
like I said, he didn't even have to say anything. He's
Hmm.
just letting it happen. It
Letting it
was pretty cool.
unfold. Yeah. So that, Nikki, anything you'd like to add before we move on?
No, I just agree. I can't imagine what it was like for him to bring that kind of joy to people. And Simon was so skeptical and so crabby and was in such a
Yeah.
hurry. And then he's like just looking at him, and that little smile Jesus had just said it
Yeah.
all. Like, see, you just had to listen.
Yeah. So let's take the next question here in our study. And so it says this episode begins with Peter helping the Romans to discover fishermen who are tax cheats. Sometimes we choose pragmatism, what works in the immediate or in the moment, over principle. How is this a problem? Any thoughts from any of you? Even Janice, now you can speak from the peanut
I don't
gallery.
want
You don't want to. Is this the way you're going to be the rest of the evening? Yeah. Actually, she's kind of tired because anybody who's our Facebook friends knows that we have a gigantic cactus in the back in our backyard, and the wind knocked it over the other day. And so I asked my gardener if he could help, put it back. And so he dug a huge hole. And I thought, hey, that you're digging the hole way too big. But I just stepped back and let the gardener do his thing. And then, so then it came time for him and I to lift the cactus into place. We couldn't budget. The thing is, it has to weigh hundreds of pounds. I'm not kidding. It's no exaggeration.
And you cut 2 branches off.
Yeah, yeah, and so finally, we were able to, and I thought, oh great, here's a couple people approaching 70 years old.
I
know. and my gardener is a tank. He really is. He's just this little guy, but I've never seen anybody. Well, I have seen people who work just as hard as he is, but he's one of the hardest working guys, and so But we with our help, he was able to lift that thing into place, and that put that
And
all
then
together.
he's like, hold it. And it's like going like this.
Yeah.
And he's pouring dirt in and pounding it down and everything. And I'm holding it as hard as I possibly could hold it. If it moved 1 more inch, I was going to just fall over.
Yeah,
It was awful.
yeah. And she would have been crushed. I'm not kidding you. It's not an exaggeration. The thing was just a weighed a ton. Well, that is an exaggeration, but
A lot.
Okay. All right. So getting back to the question about pragmatism over principle, why is that a problem? Anybody, you can just chime in. I don't care.
It just starts creeping in. You
Mhm.
compromise a little here, and you intend this, but then you change your mind and you try to go that way without really taking responsibility for your own stuff. And I could just see it working in him to just compromise a little more, a little more, a little more. And one of the quotes was that he started, or I think of Nicodemus, or somebody said it. I can't remember who said it. They said it was Eden, I think. She said he's starting to deal with evil or wrong.
Mhm.
And it just creeped in little by little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you kind of get on panic mode and just start frantically trying to do whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
He didn't seem to
yeah.
care if it was going to affect the other fishermen until
Right.
Yeah.
obviously later. He just wanted something that would help his close immediate family. And he said that all I care about is Eden and Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So
Just
yeah.
focused on one thing, and that's where he was going.
Tunnel vision. Yeah. So I got Val here on isolation modes. You know. So, I think I might set up Nikki on isolation mode too, and also Lorene. And so
What's
I
that
know,
mean?
like that. See right there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all Nikki head. That's all head all the time. So, all right, and let me see if I can get Lorene in here too on this one here. There we go. Okay, cool. So that way, when you're talking, I can come back to you guys. And so let's see. So coming back here for a moment, let's go ahead and go to our slides again, and continue to work through our points of discussion. And by the way, if you're watching out there in Facebook land, you can type in a response. Janice will do her best. There is a little bit of a delay on
I haven't seen any comment.
on all of this, and so that it says here's one Facebook user says, "Can you increase the volume?" So I'm doing that right now on my side.
Excuse me.
Let me just make one small adjustment and maybe increase the volume. Let's see, maybe not. So okay, all right. So let me, you guys are loud. My okay. So but let's go ahead and we will go through this question here. Is that what are some of Peter's character traits that the producers chose to illustrate in this episode?
He was a fast-talking, hot-headed charmer, which we get a hint of. We get a hint of that in Scripture anyway. But
Yeah.
they really did good about portraying that about him
Yeah, yeah,
because he was very charming.
yeah. And Janice says she doesn't like his character,
Who?
Peter.
Well,
Yeah, that. I guess it's because she's put up with too many fast-talking charmers in her life. So, any other character traits that the way that they portrayed Peter?
He's stubborn.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So he is stubborn.
did she see impulsive?
Yeah, no, she didn't say impulsive,
Yes.
but that certainly applies.
Yes.
But he was a guy who just kind of went with his gut, and sometimes that got himself in a heap of trouble. That one of the things that impressed me about him in this episode is that he's self-reliant. That that instead of trusting in God to deliver the solution, Peter kind of operates by that non-scripture that says God helps those who help themselves. That while it's true that we have to be proactive in seeking solutions, we just don't wait for them to drop out of heaven. But
I found Facebook.
you found the Facebook thing. Okay, good. So maybe you can make some quotes as we go along.
Well, Kathleen was saying that she thought he was arrogant and a bully.
Yeah, okay. I'll just bring her quote right there. See, we got it right up there. She thought he was arrogant and a bully, and he was in many ways. So that okay. And so on Facebook, if you make a quote, Janice will call you out, and I will do my best to make sure that quote gets up on line. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of the butter session, because it's just too hard to do all of that. Nobody's on it anyway, so that's good enough. Okay, next question. Let's do that. All right. Okay, let me just get out of this thing here. Okay. Next question. Here we go. What? I know. So, sorry. I need Val over here to operate my slides, So, so he does a good job for me on Sunday mornings. Nicodemus, in this episode, Nicodemus says this about John the Baptist. He seems to relish rejecting anything that has to do with tradition or anyone with influence. How might tradition and or influence get in our way of responding to God? How might tradition and or influence get in our way of responding to God? Thoughts? Speak out.
Can take you away from God.
Yeah, in what ways?
A lot of times the traditions and the what do you call it? The influence.
Yeah.
It's not even biblical. It's not even God's will. It's just what people think.
Yeah.
This is a question. This was the most important question in the whole thing for me, because I feel like in my old age, I'm starting really to try to figure out what I was brought up with in my Christian life that's tradition, that's not truly from Scripture. And it's actually a struggle for me, because I'm so indoctrinated, I guess, to my upbringing, and I never questioned it while I was being raised, but I am now. And so to me, this is my journey right now, is questioning those traditions that I've tried to follow, and are they taking me away from God, or are they taking me to God? That's kind of my question. So this was a really good, thoughtful question for me to think about.
Yeah, yeah. And not all traditions are bad traditions.
No,
That and and so yeah, it's just one of those. It's just a journey. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. I wish I could be some help, but
you are.
That's why the Lord gives us the Spirit, is to He will instruct us and show us the way to go. So that that aspect, coming back to the question just for a moment, that aspect about tradition or influence, that I think that influence can really be a problem. And in Nicodemus's case, he was a man of religious influence, and that was a big problem in his situation. And I've seen that so many times also with pastors and leaders, and probably too many times in my own life, where I am more concerned about what others think than I am concerned about doing the right thing. I would like to think that I really am not, but You don't think so? Yeah. I'm just the type of guy who lobs the grenade and watch it and see what type of fallout comes.
But like the other night when we were watching a documentary about Waco, the guy,
Koresh.
Yeah. And how people still to this day think he was God.
I know. Yeah.
It's amazing what people will believe and what influence spiritual leaders can have on people.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Scriptures tell us that those who teach will be judged with greater strictness, is that which always kind of causes me to shake in my boots a little bit when I think, oh great, I don't need any more strictness in my judgment. That's right. For sure. Thank you. No, I think I'll retire from the ministry if that's the case.
It's almost like the tradition squeezed out God's love, and we saw it over and over with Jesus dealing with the Pharisees. Is they were so set on the law, they forgot to love the people that they were to serve. And I don't want to be that. I don't want that tradition. Oh, blah blah blah. So, go on your way, instead of asking them questions and just loving them in wherever they are.
Yeah. Well, I'm open to questions. I certainly am. As a leader, I'm open to questions because I've certainly had my fair share of them. One thing about my questions is that I don't always necessarily have a ready answer, but I will at least think about it for a while and try to give at least a reason to answer why I do what I do and why I believe what I believe. So okay, coming back to our next slide here. That oh, and by the way, don't you just love the actor who plays Nicodemus? Is that I think that in so many cases here that they just get it spot on. So hey, let's just digress for a moment. And how about for you guys? Do you have a favorite character other than Jesus in the series of The Chosen? Who would be, okay, maybe your top two or
Matthew.
three. Matthew? Okay. Tell me why.
Yay.
His innocence and he has no filter. I love that.
Yeah.
I love how he's not deceitful in any way. He just
Yeah.
says what he thinks, and
Says it
he's
out.
just honest.
Yeah. So he's on the spectrum. We don't know, if he's autistic or whatever. I mentioned this in church the other day, and is that he had to be a man of a rare intellect in his time. First of all, to be entrusted as a tax collector, that doesn't mean he was a popular guy, but he had a great facility with numbers and record keeping. Tax collectors were despised as traitors amongst the Jews. But then, yeah, go ahead. And then, I'll bring in some of these comments in a minute. But he also had to speak at least four languages and be conversant in four languages: Latin, with respect to the official language of the Romans; Greek, which is the kind of the lingua franca of that time. It's kind of like English is for the most part in the world today. And then he had to be fluent in Hebrew, obviously, but then also Aramaic. And Aramaic is not to be confused with Arabic. It's Aramaic. It's an ancient language that's a dead language now. But that's Jan saying, right, that she agrees with Nikki on
No, Carolyn.
Oh, Carolyn? Carolyn who?
Mackenzie.
Okay. So Carolyn McKenzie there. And then we have this comment here. Dave likes the dog. So Jan Gallivan, her husband Dave, likes the dog. And Kathleen, she says, I like Nicodemus. He plays the role well. There's later on, there's just some really cool, and I suspect that, how many of you guys, by the way, who are on screen with me right now, how many of you have cheated and have watched more than just the first season? Right. Yeah.
I'm right on the fourth one right now, and that's it. I just started, and Nikki had seen them before, but
Yeah.
I was even up 3 in the morning because I'm so used to getting up early, and that was finest time I was awake the whole time, so I got to watch it, and it was really good. So.
Cool. That I'm doing this study with another group on Monday nights. Is it Monday nights? Tuesday nights. And that and so we're kind of like way ahead on it. And a lot of the guys have watched that. And here's another cheater, Kathleen, who says that she's watched more than...
You can't just watch a little.
Yeah, you can't just... I'm really delighted, to tell you the truth, with the production values, because normally I despise Christian movies. They grate me. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that I liked this series so much. But,
I'm watching them over, and I'm finding that I missed a lot of stuff the first time. Like I watch it again, and I see different things, and then some of them I'm like, did I watch this? Because we would watch them at night, and we'd watch one or two, and we go, oh yeah, let's watch another one, and then I'd fall asleep.
That's typical, by the way, for Janice. I mean, her she goes to bed around 11, but she sleeps from about 7 to 11.
I do not. You're so full of it.
Yeah. Yeah, watch our marriage break up here on live broadcast. So,
I think the questions help
yeah.
you look at it deeper too. I think
Mm-hmm.
when I watched it the first time, it was more entertainment value, and now I'm looking for deeper messages.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you know. And so I spend a lot of time working on these questions because I want to make sure that I bring value to our. So I've watched some of these episodes probably 4 times, and you know, but I enjoy it. I really do. So, okay. So the question, yeah, we talked about that one already. Let's go ahead with the next one. Simon's wife. Hey, I love her too, her character. And so Eden says to him, no more talking. Maybe God can get your attention now. Sometimes we have to get to the end of ourselves before we open up to God's help. Why is it? Why is that the case? That we have to get to the end of ourselves before we open up to God's help. Any comments there? You guys, what do you think?
I think when you were talking about self-reliance, if you keep relying on yourself and you cannot produce, like he couldn't solve this problem,
Mm-hmm.
then he finally realized the only thing that could help him was God, and he
Yeah,
watched God work in his life.
yeah. However, he was extremely reluctant to embrace the God solution, and so that we have Jan Galliman saying that it's she finds it helpful to watch it more than once. That
I think sometimes,
so yeah. Go ahead.
um, sometimes we get so, sometimes I get so caught up in the franticness of trying to solve something, or just even like, I think I've said this before, but even like one day I was just sitting there feeling so down, and like I really had this thing and I needed to talk to someone about it, and I kept trying to think of who I could talk to, and I couldn't think of any person to talk to, and um, all of a sudden it just dawned on me, you could pray. God is with you. He's right here with you. Just talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really helped me. It was so much better probably than even if I talked to someone, but
Yeah.
it's kind of the last thing we
Yeah.
do sometimes.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
sometimes it's last thing on our mind when, like Simon, he was so focused
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He
on
needed to
getting
fix
things
it.
done. Right.
Yeah.
He didn't, and yeah, it just passes you, and you don't think until the very end.
I
Yeah.
know for me that we just had that comment, and let's hear your comment, Carrie. So okay, that for me, I was an extremely reluctant convert to Christianity, and and it was when kind of I came to the place where I had to get to the end of myself before, and it's amazing to me that God even allows us that grace, because you would think that he would say, okay, I've given you enough chances. That, but I was just really, I did not want to become a Christian. But then when I became convinced of the truth of the message, I realized I had to make a decision with respect to that. And so I had my own Simon Peter moment in my life. I guess I'm certainly not on the par with Peter, other than being stubborn and impulsive too many times, and self-reliant,
So you're identical.
and proud, and being a bully, and being a charmer, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So that we have to get to the end of ourselves before we can make room for God to work in our lives. And I'm grateful. I really am. I'm very grateful that I got to that place. In our group last on Tuesday, that one of the questions was that, why doesn't God kind of like tell us more about where he's taken us in advance. And and some of the guys said, well, it's probably because we just go ahead and just wait until the last moment to turn to the Lord, and squander our lives until that final moment. But when I look back on it for myself, is that no, it has not been easy for me to follow Christ, and there's been a lot of things about following Jesus that has been a struggle. But there's so many valuable things He's brought to my life. My wife, no, seriously, my kids, my friends. I've had the extreme pleasure of kind of sitting on the front row of watching God move in some really cool ministries. Rafa International, Southern Mexico Missions, and Tumaini Million Kids. That doesn't mean there hasn't been challenges along the way, but I wouldn't trade it. Jesus said that He came to give us a life and life more abundantly, and I can testify. Oh, there's my hand. I can testify that He's given me an abundant life. So can I get a witness from you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
There's no regrets. No,
Yeah.
none. I mean, I've had some stuff, but it's okay. It's like, it's all right with me.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's still God's abundance towards me.
Yeah. My only regret is that I was not. I have a lot of regrets about being a bonehead in the ministry, and really, when I look at when I was a younger minister, and I thought, oh, you're such a bonehead, and that I have a lot of regrets about that. I have a lot of regrets about being a bonehead young Christian. I turned off a lot of people in my misguided zeal, But you can't. That's part of the.
It comes with wisdom, and
Yeah.
also with even society's wisdom. I mean, it changed. People
Yeah.
used to just say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're going to be fine. Just hang in there and smile.
Yeah, really. All right, let's take our next slide here. So the Messiah, which means anointed one, or Christ. Christ is not Jesus' last name. It's Jesus the Messiah, or Jesus the Christ. The Jews had the expectation that the Messiah would be a military leader to overthrow their oppressors. But that's not who Jesus was. How might our expectations of how God should act prevent us from seeing what He's actually doing? What do you think, guys?
I think some people think He's just this nice, warm, loving, never get mad at you, forgives everything, just whatever you want to do goes. And then there are some people that see just the opposite, and there's no middle ground. Like he's wrathful and he's judgmental and he's going to send you to hell. And I think if you don't see the whole picture of what He is, all His character traits, then you're going to miss a lot.
Yeah. So, that's for sure. So, we put expectations on God, certainly how He should behave. And I think that one of the places where where I've done it is that when I first became a Christian, I had this naive expectation that God was, if I was just devout enough, and if I just prayed enough, and if I just believed enough, that God would smooth out all the speed bumps. Yeah, like that happened, and but I think it's in those experiences that we learn some of the most valuable lessons about faith. trusting God, about healing, about growth, and things like that. So, any other comments before we move on?
Carolyn McKenzie said we put expectations on God and we limit him.
Yeah. Well, we do, And so, I'm just at the place in my life where I've decided that I'm just going to go ahead and let God be God. And he is going to work in his way and in his time. And one of the things that I have, I've kind of, what's the right word for it? I have not resolved myself, but maybe that's the best word I can come up with right now, is that, I guess I've resolved myself to this, is that if God is who he says he is, so in other words, if he loves me with a perfect love, and that if he's good and powerful, then why wouldn't I want what he wants for my life? I'd be stupid. I'd be stupid to go for second best, But the problem that we have is that we just don't sometimes see where God is leading us.
Well, it takes a lot of faith, and I think that, if you've seen God working in your life and you've seen how so many times he answers your prayer at the last moment, just like when you think, well, he's not even going to do anything. And then this wonderful, miraculous thing happens and you're like, I never would have thought of it working out that way,
Yeah.
And if that happens enough times, then it's easier to just say, I'm not going to stress this. God's got it. I know he has it. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And you're usually surprised.
You don't do a very good job of that, though.
About what?
Stressing about things.
I'm doing a lot better than I used to.
Yeah, I know. But you are still a worrier. A fretter. Right?
Maybe.
Well, there goes the marriage again. We have one of our kids who's going through a very difficult time right now. And so when I talk to them about it, that they have a great perspective, but it's still a real struggle. But we've oftentimes talked about how that God is an 11:59 God. He doesn't show up at 6:30, not 8 o'clock, not 11 o'clock.
A lot of times, no.
Yeah. But when he shows up, and even if
That's
it's
what
a no,
I was saying.
yeah.
It's always in ways you can't even think or imagine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So coming back to this next question. So, Nicodemus is a man who's open to the possibilities of how God might be working. Why is it important to maintain this posture in life? Tell me your thoughts.
I think God is going to do what he's going to do, and we might as well just get out of the way.
Yeah.
Because he's going to do, his sovereign will be done.
Yeah.
And we fret, and I'm glad God doesn't think like I do, because my thinking's super flawed, and I'm glad he's smarter than me and can figure things out, like Janice said, in ways that I wouldn't even thought he could figure out that way. I didn't even think of it. So
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do too, is just get out of God's way, just give it to him in prayer, and really forget about it and let him just work. Because I don't know why I'm always surprised when God works in the darkest hour. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we surprised? I've seen it done so many times,
Yeah.
and I still get surprised. I'm thinking, why am I so surprised? Of course, that's what he does,
Yeah.
and he's going to do it.
And I think he does that so that it's him. It wasn't you.
Just
Because
like
you would have done it sooner.
Just like with Peter.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean,
He definitely knew God was the one who brought those fish.
Yep.
yeah.
And I
So,
like Nicodemus in this series too, but I think we just need to stay open to the possibilities how God will be working too in our lives. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
You know, Nicodemus is both he's both such a hopeful character and also in certain regards a tragic character because now obviously we don't know if the invitation and this is a spoiler alert, you know, but we don't know if if Jesus extended the invitation to him as directly as what it's portrayed in The Chosen, but he was a man who had a lot to sacrifice and and he just couldn't bring himself to follow Jesus, you know,
Fully.
and yeah, fully, at least at that, in the way that Jesus invited him to follow. So, okay, let's go to our next question. So Simon goes through the darkest night of his life and has difficult questions for God. How typical is it for believers to question God, particularly in life's darkest hours? What do you think?
Typical of humans.
Yeah, you know,
very typical humans.
yeah. I was talking to Thomas. He's in our other group, and he was talking about the disciples, an issue that comes up with him a little bit later on. But one of the great things that I love about this series is how the great job that it's done in humanizing the disciples. You know, instead of we have kind of this image that these guys were always people who were spot on with their character and spot on with their faith, and in the mere fact that Jesus, and Eden talks about this and elsewhere, but the mere fact that Jesus could see these guys not just for who they are, but who they could be, you know, and that gives me hope. You know, that
I think for me, sometimes when things are going really good is when I think I don't question God during the times when things are good, but I don't really turn to God when things are good because they're good, you know. But when they're a dark hour, I think I just have so much more dependency on God. Then I'm reading the scriptures, I'm praying more, I'm searching and listening to Him, trying to find out, you know, like, what do I do?
yeah. I know for myself that my prayer life, during the seasons in my life when I've gone through dark hours, my prayer life is much more robust.
Yeah.
You know, that although I'm circling back in my own personal life and really trying to drill down deeper into prayer, but there are times when it's a challenge. No, I'm not like Val. And Val wakes up at 3:00. I got up at 4:00 this morning, not because I wanted
Slept
to.
in?
Yeah. That for whatever reason that, and I couldn't go back to sleep, so I thought I'd try to pray. And I've discovered, I know this about myself. My mind is a jumble, and I'm so frustrated when I pray to God because it's just jumbled. You know, that I would love it to be much more focused and deliberate, but I have ADD when it comes to prayer.
I think so many people do. I mean, I don't think that's uncommon, you
Yeah.
know? And like you start praying about one thing and then you're like, oh, and yeah, and that one. Oh, and that one, you know? It's like you're all over the map. But isn't that what the Holy Spirit's supposed to do, is kind of interpret all this craziness to God?
I guess you're going to have to, you know, the longer that I live, I would like to, obviously there's habits and behaviors that have I've dealt with and have moved on from. But the longer that I live, the more I'm impressed with how deep my brokenness runs. You know, that you know, I get peevish about different things. You know, things that are small. You know.
Yeah, you're getting old and grumpy.
You don't have to tell all of our secrets on The Chosen. Come on. You know. But yeah, I get peevish about things. I get, you know, that, you know, I just have so many weaknesses and flaws with respect to my spirituality, you know. And I think a good friend of mine, when he was dying, and he's a man of God, he said, I hope I'll make it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want that to be me. You know, that I hope I'll make it. Because all I got to do is just trust in the Lord. Because he's already made it.
So have you.
I know. It's hard
We
to
all
accept.
have.
It's hard to accept, isn't it?
It's getting easier for me.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Good for you, man. So,
Celebrate recovery.
yeah, I know. I know. I think it does help. I think it does. I know. All right. So, next question. So, we got to get going on these. Zebedee, I like what he says. He says, it's true, as Zebedee says, sometimes the sea bests all of us. We cannot control our circumstances. However, we can choose how to face them. What's the best way to face life's difficult circumstances? What do you think? The best way to face life's difficult circumstances?
One day at a time.
Yeah, that's what Jesus himself says. Let the day's trouble be sufficient for the day. You know, what else?
We truly have to develop a trust in God.
Yes.
That's the only way I know.
Yeah. And I think that we need to have a long-term perspective that this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things I've learned in life is that all of my problems have not lasted forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some people, they do. You know, some people have chronic illness. Some people have persistent handicaps. And, you know, I know a friend of mine is blind. And I'm sure that he's prayed for his sight to return. His wife said that he is good with him not seeing now. He's made peace with it, you know. But one day
You'll see.
he'll be able to see, you know. And so, any other thoughts? Because I have one thought that I just got to jump on, but anybody? No? Well, here's my thought. Is that I've oftentimes thought about people who don't believe in God. Because I've lived enough of life to see that what happens in your life is that more and more of the things that you valued gets whittled away piece by piece. Now, that's horribly pessimistic, you know, but it does happen. But the difference between a Christian and an unbeliever is that we have a sure basis for our hope. And all the unbeliever has is the prospect of a darker and darker night in their lives, you know. So I'm grateful for that. And you know, the confidence that we can have on that, and I think that there's great reasons to believe in Christ's resurrection. We're celebrating that this Easter. And, you know, I think that there's good logical, historical, rational reasons to believe in Christ's resurrection. And so if that's the case, then we have hope. You know.
Joy says, "Be still. God has it all under control,
Yeah.
and we don't."
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, next question. After a fruitless night of fishing, Simon tells Jesus, "I'm in a hurry." Move along, Jesus. I'm in a hurry. How might our timetable cause us to miss out on what God is doing?
He doesn't always work in our time, obviously. Usually he doesn't. We want it right now, and he has what's better for us, and sometimes that's not right now. Usually it's not right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Number 12. We only got a couple more. Had Simon rebuffed Jesus and rejected his request to not only use his boat, but also to try again to catch fish, he would have missed out on something wonderful. What's the biggest problem when we give way to hopelessness? What's the biggest problem when we give way to hopelessness?
I think we become blind.
Yeah.
You know, we just can't even see. I mean, I've seen that, and I don't know if this is going to touch anybody, but in suicide, when they've just lost their hope, they've lost their hope and they can't think of any other options because they just can't see that there's other options, you know? And I mean, that's not just with that, but there's so many, I mean, with the drug addict or the alcoholic, they get to the point where they can't even see that there is other options.
Yeah.
And I think you just become blind.
Yeah. We get discouraged and give up. That's what Kathleen says. You know, in the ministry, you see a lot of things. And some of them are wonderful experiences, and some of them are painful. And I've seen too many Christians get to the place where they give up. And one lady comes to mind, and she had enough of suffering in her life. And she's an older lady, but she just had enough of suffering in her life. And she just decided, I'm not going to eat anymore. You know, I'm like, who does that? But she did. And yeah, and I'm not judging her, you know. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, that
no judgment.
It's just really sad when you get to that place where you just say, "Okay, Lord," or you know, God can't do anything good in this bad situation. You know, I think a lot of people are like that in their marriages. You know, and I think that they quit too soon. And I'm not saying everybody, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But they quit before the breakthrough. You know. So, okay. Next question. In one of the closing scenes of this episode, Simon is painfully aware of his unworthiness before Jesus. Why does God's grace, his favor that we don't deserve, often have that effect on us?
I loved watching him on this part, bowing. He just fell to his knees, and
Yeah.
it just. But that's how I feel about when we really see God face to face. That is what we're going to do. We're just going to fall to our knees, because you see what.
Oops.
What?
Poof.
Lost her. Poof. right,
Gone.
right when
Mid-thought.
right when it was getting good, we lost
Good.
Lorraine. There she
There she
is.
is.
Oh, we lost it.
Yeah, you're back.
Bummer. My phone was ringing. That was the problem. I got to put it on Do Not Disturb next
Oh
time.
yeah. Lesson learned. That's your tech lesson.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of these tech lessons already, and that was your lesson learned for tonight. So, all right. So, but did you finish your thought,
Yeah, when we
I don't know.
Lorraine?
I was.
You're old. You're old. What thought? You know. So, all right. So, all right. Let's see. Somebody's mic is all wacky.
Listen.
Huh? What? Mute their mics when they're not talking. Okay, maybe I should do that. Let me.
What happened?
Yeah, well, I can do that over here. How about that? Okay. So, in one of the closing scenes in this episode, Simon is. Oh, we already talked about that. Okay, that's the final slide. All right. Life changes when we choose to follow Jesus. How has this been your experience? Nikki, I think maybe your mic that's a little bit wacky.
Mine.
Yeah, it's we're getting a lot of static. That's all right.
She has it muted.
Hers is muted.
Look.
It stopped when you did mine, but
Here, let me mute you just temporarily and just see if that works. One moment. Where is it? It says they have
She
it.
muted
That's
herself.
Nikki. And so, oh yeah, okay. Try muting your mic, Val, and see if it's you. No. Okay.
Oh, no.
No. All right, Lorraine, try muting your mic. You're the offender. Here. I was blaming everybody
Well,
else.
each person can mute their own mic, and then when you want to talk, just unmute it.
There you go. All right. So back to the question before we got sidetracked with the tech stuff. Life changes when we choose to follow Jesus. How has this been your experience? I'm going to start with Janice. How about you?
I feel like that I've been following Jesus since I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that my life has been sweeter because of that, and that, there's so many things that I could have been involved in, or I could have been sidetracked with and stuff that I wasn't, because I was taught about Jesus and I loved him from the minute I was a little kid. Always, all my life I've loved Jesus, and I've always had a relationship with him. But yeah, it just keeps getting better as the years go on,
Yeah. So Kathleen says, I was lost and now I'm found. I was searching for something of this world that didn't exist. And when I went back to church, I immediately knew what I was missing. Who else?
Amen, Kathleen.
Yeah.
it does get better and sweeter. But it seems to me that as we get older, that's when most people start listening and following. But when you're young, that just you don't. But as you get older, it just seems that way.
Yeah.
You're young and you think that you're invincible.
Yeah.
Don't need God.
So, Nikki, how about you?
I think as you go through life and you have more serious circumstances in your life and more people die in your life and more tragedies, he comes to me, he's become so more like he's clear in my life. Like he was kind of foggy before. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain, but it's like he's so evident to me more and
Right.
more every single day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lorraine, you want to try unmuting your mic?
My story is similar to Janice's. You know, I was raised in the church, and I put myself forward when I was 11 and then 15. And when I was at summer camp, I dedicated my life to full-time Christian service. Did I know what those things meant? No. But I think those choices, even though I'm full of my own flaws and sins, I shudder to think what I might have become had I not had those bones, in my foundation. And I feel so grateful and fortunate that I had that. Other people have had to go through all kinds of crazy things to get to where they are. Do I still have my problems? Of course, I have big issues still. But I think I was sort of saved in a sense, from really bad stuff. Not that it saved me from being any less human than anybody else, because it didn't. But I don't know what I would have been like at 25 had I not had the church background.
I kind of think I wouldn't have made it this long myself, because I was on a path of rapid self-destruction, and and I've seen far too many people who've gone down that route. So, hey guys, thank you for joining us tonight. We have a couple more comments before we. Joyce, that he's my refuge, strength, and hope, and I'm not alone. Yeah. If this is a learning curve for us, okay, but at least we got this far tonight. Woo, woo. Yeah. So that so here's what I'm offering, is that if anybody would like to participate on this on-screen experience, I made an executive decision tonight to not even try the Butter app. Now, Butter is a wonderful app, but it's just not going to get us to where we want to go on this. So I'm just going to stick with this particular format that I'm using. Now, I can have up to 10 guests. So if you'd like to participate as a guest on this, it means that you'd have to have a webcam or a smartphone, a webcam with a microphone or a smartphone, and we can bring you on. I really believe that I can manage 10 guests. I already know how I can do that, so that's not a problem. So if you want to join as a guest, that reach out to me. You can direct message me, or you can also send me a text or an email, or you can post your desire in the comment section of our whatever you call it, our groups. We broadcast to a number of groups on this, and Carolyn McKenzie says, thank you, Carrie, and all. So all you guys, and I'll go ahead and take the thanks too. And that Joyce Allen also said, it was great, good questions and comments. Anything any of you guys would like to say before we wrap up for tonight?
Doing the eCam thing, I don't like a bunch of tech stuff because I'm old and I can't remember stuff, but this was really easy to do. So if you're a little intimidated by doing the right buttons, Carrie walks you through. I mean, it took less than 5 minutes and we did it, and I was on. It was so easy. So try it.
Yeah, there you go. So and Val is giving us a thumbs up. So, all right, cool. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up here in just a minute. That I'm going to just drop you guys off, but I want to just tell you thank you for participating with me tonight. I really appreciate you being my guinea pigs. But hey, it's for a good cause, So God bless you guys. I'll see you in church or Friday. Yeah, at Compass, we're going to have a Good Friday celebration there at Cowtown, and local folks will know how to get there. But before we wrap up, I just want to say a couple remarks. And first of all, Janice, thank you for being a part.
Glad I could make it.
Yeah, me too. So you're a little bit hot from probably lifting the cactus.
I think it's the lights in
No,
here.
these
It's
are
hot.
LED lights.
Oh,
So,
you're gonna have hot flash.
yeah. So, but yeah, and thank each one of you guys who have tuned in tonight. That I am just really committed to making this the best experience possible, and I would encourage you also to check out our Discuss the Chosen Facebook group, because we post content there routinely that hopefully will enhance your experience. And also you can get the discussion questions there in the group. You just go to Facebook and look up and Discuss the Chosen. And the group itself is called Discuss the Chosen. So it's easy to find. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We will see you guys